Alrighty, hello to whoever is watching. Alrighty, hello to whoever is watching. Alrighty, hello to whoever is watching. Alrighty, looks like we're gonna get started fairly soon. I think we're just letting a few more people join into the call as well. But for those of you, hey Gusti, hey Courtney, some people from my fellow GCM alumni class. That's awesome to see. Alrighty, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. We'll let those of you that are still catching up just roll on in. Hey Simon. All right, if you guys do have any questions, feel free to put them into the chat box in the YouTube live section of the screen. But for now, I do have a presentation that I'd like to share, so just give me a moment as I pull up my screen. All righty, so is everyone able to see it? Okay, looks like I'm able to see it on the screen, so. Oh, hello, everyone from Nepal. All right, I am going to go ahead and start sharing. All righty. So thank you everyone for joining today on this little session about zero waste living. I hope it's somewhat informational for you all and also very educational too. So I'm going to go ahead and get started by introducing myself. So I'm Christine. I was in Global Changemakers back in 2016, and I am living a zero waste lifestyle right now, and that's why I'm here to share it with you. I currently work at Cisco Systems full-time as a sustainable packaging program manager, so I drive all the sustainability initiatives on the packaging engineering team. But all this really started because of my background in packaging. So I became very aware of the issue of waste when I studied packaging, because knowing how much is involved and how much goes into the process of manufacturing packaging and where it goes afterwards, that really brought a lot to light in regards to the amount of waste that we produce here in the US. Because in all honesty, when we see a trash bin for, I would say, the common user, the common consumer, we throw something away and then we don't think much about where it goes afterwards. But for me, the thing that really got me to start thinking was that the United States makes up 5% of the world's population, but produces about 40% of the world's waste, and about half of that comes from food and food packaging, which happened to be my specialty. So I decided to go out and really venture and see where does all of my trash go. And I visited quite a few sites locally here in California where I do live. And this is just a picture of the materials recovery facility here in Milpitas, which is about 30 minutes away from where I live. And essentially, all of our recyclables, compost, and trash goes into these types of facilities here in the US to be sorted. And this is just a snapshot of one day's worth of waste that is going through the facility. So it's quite a bit. And if you ever have the chance to go and visit, I think it's a really empowering way for you to understand where your waste does go. So after it goes to a materials recovery facility, it ends up here, which is a landfill. This here is a landfill which is just 10 minutes away from my home, and it's just really amazing to see where it is in relation to the rest of San Jose. So just about, if you see my cursor over here, just 10 minutes down south, that's where I live, and these mountains essentially where all these landfills reside are very close to quite a few great hiking parks in San Jose. And I used to train there all the time for cross country in high school, so it's just amazing to see how close our trash is and how it's just building up right next to these very wonderful areas. So the way that a landfill works is that this portion which is pictured here, this is called an active landfill, and all of our most recent trash is going to end up here. You'll have these tractor-like vehicles called compactors, and what they do is they run over all the trash, and what they're trying to do is trying to compact and fill the landfill as much as possible with very little air and very little room to pretty much move so that they can put as much as possible in there. And then once all of it is put in and there's no more space, what this is an inactive landfill. It's covered with old concrete and dirt and building materials. And then, as you can see, it pretty much just sits there and doesn't do anything afterwards. The thing about landfills, though, is that they anaerobically decompose because they don't have the natural environment to decompose with regular UV light and oxygen because they're so compacted. So what happens is that these landfill sites have to put these methane tanks, as you can see right here, these little, they have like a yellow pipe right there. So methane gas is a byproduct of this type of decomposition. And methane gas is quite a few times more potent than carbon dioxide in regards to the different greenhouse gas emissions that we produce here in our world. So that's definitely a huge contributor to climate change as well. So these methane tanks are supposed to be kind of capturing all that methane that is released from this anaerobic decomposition. But there are times, well, you never know, and that might not catch everything. So I guess one more thing to also note is that another byproduct of these landfills is every time it rains, that rainwater produces a form of liquid from all the stuff that sits in our landfills, which is called leachate. Leachate is a very toxic substance, and there's also, again, there's tanks that try to draw out all this liquid from the rainwater. But if there is a tear in the lining of the landfill, or if it's not properly taken care of, then leachate can also go into our waterways, into our streams, and definitely be a big contributor to contaminating our water as well. So you're probably thinking, now what? And what essentially do you want to do about this? So the thing that I came across when I was learning all about trash was the ability for myself as an individual to reduce the amount of waste in my life. And that's how I came across the zero waste lifestyle. So this is a picture of my trash jar when I first started, but I actually still have it here, and it's actually almost to the brim, but this is about, I want to say 2.5 years of my non-recyclable and non-compostable waste. So I wanted to go ahead and share with you guys today a little bit more about why I do this, and also how exactly I do it. And I'm actually going to give you guys a little sneak peek of general themes in my home. And this is also a plug for a future book which is coming out too that I recently just authored called Sustainable Home. So hopefully that'll give you guys a sense of some of the things I do in my own home to reduce my waste. And also there are also quite a few other questions that we got through the sign-up form. So I'll be sharing the answers to that as well afterwards. So first, in regards to the zero waste lifestyle, I'm sure many of you have heard the term reduce, reuse, and recycle, but zero waste lifestylers, they actually add 2 more R's, which are refuse and raw, and then I've also added a bonus 2, which are repair and rethink. So essentially, you want to do these things in order to really reduce your waste, but I'll walk through each one so you have a better sense of what it means and how it applies to your life. So the first R is to refuse. And what that means is that you are supposed to refuse anything that you don't really need. So for example, if I were to go, let's say, to a job fair, and there's a lot of freebies that a lot of companies will give out, like t-shirts, bags, widgets, and all sorts of things, it's always important for me to say no thank you, because a lot of times these freebies are things I don't actually need and just accumulate later in my life, and then I might throw it away afterwards. The second R is to reduce, so simplify the things that you do need. And this looks very, at least practically speaking, it kind of looks like a minimalist lifestyle. I'm not saying that every single person that lives zero waste is minimalist, but it is often the case that if you do live a minimalistic lifestyle, you are reducing the amount of things that you need, and thus more likely to reduce the amount of waste that you produce at the end of life. The third R is to reuse. So when possible, reuse as much as you can. So just an example of this is reusing a water bottle over going for a single-use plastic bottle. The fourth one is to recycle. So if you do have to throw something away, try to see if you can extend the lifespan of it. So let's say you buy, I want to say, an aluminum can that has some canned beans in it. You want to extend the lifespan of that metal and then also make sure it can be made into something new. And the last of the official 5 R's is to rot. So anything that cannot be reused or recycled, that is going to go into your compost and naturally degraded so that all of those nutrients can go back into the earth for future use as well. The last 2 bonus R's are repair and rethink. So for repair, I like to also put this in because I think it's very important to extend the lifespan of your products or the belongings that you do have in your home as much as you can. So in terms of repair, I have one example where I've repaired my leather shoes, I've repaired my glasses before. So whenever you can try to repair something instead of throwing it away after it breaks a little bit, try to do that instead of generating more waste that way. And the last R is to rethink. So when you are going to buy something new, I just encourage anyone to rethink the whole process of where something was made and where it's going to go and how much trash it's going to produce in the long run, and really rethink through the 5 R's and also the bonus 2 that I've shared with you so that you can work towards reducing your waste as well. All right, so I want to jump into my home and some general themes that I like to implement in my own home. And then we'll just go into all the questions at the end, so keep them coming in the chat box as well if you do have them. So the first thing that I like to do, this really goes with the R of refuse and reduce. I really like to keep things minimal in my home. And the reason why I live a minimalistic lifestyle is twofold. One, I think it keeps me sane. If I have less things, there's a lot less things I can take care of and it's a lot easier. But it also just makes my whole lifestyle a lot more simpler, and I don't need to consume as many things. And I think in part of living the minimalistic lifestyle, one of the biggest things, or one of the biggest benefits that I've seen is that I really do save money. in terms of I really restrain myself from ordering or buying the things I don't truly need. But if I were to buy something, what I typically try to do is I'll give myself like a month window. I'll leave something maybe in an online shopping cart or on a wish list, and I'll wait for 30 days before I actually buy it. And then after the 30-day period, I'll really assess how was my life without this product, and do I really need it in the long run? So that usually helps me to keep things minimal and to keep things simple as well. The second thing that I like to do in my home is purchase secondhand. So as you can see in this picture right here, the lamp, the little plant stool, as well as my couch, all of those things I was able to find secondhand. It took quite a while, but it's really possible to turn someone else's trash into your treasure, essentially, and to extend the lifespan of someone else's stuff that they don't want anymore. So I highly recommend purchasing secondhand if you can, because it really extends the lifespan of something, but then you can also, essentially reduce the waste of someone else's stuff as well. So some of the things that purchase secondhand in my home are also the utensils, also this in the utensil drawer that I have right next to me as well. And also the plates, bowls, quite a few things that I found through eBay and online, Craigslist. So I would definitely recommend looking into those options as well. So the third major thing that I have for my home is reusing packaging. And this is probably a big area where you can reduce the amount of waste that you produce, is in regards to food packaging. So when it comes to living zero waste, reusing your packaging and bring your own jars is something that a lot of people like to do. But I understand that not every single store has a system to do this. But essentially what happens is that I bring empty jars like this, and I can go to a local grocery store here and weigh the weight of the containers when they're empty, and that's what's called a tare weight. So what I do is I will fill this with dry goods like beans or rice, and I'll put the item number on top of the lid of these different containers, and then also put the tare weight, which is the weight of the container when it's empty. So when I check it out, the cashier will automatically deduct the weight of the container when it's empty, so you're only being charged for the things that are inside. So in terms of what my food haul typically looks like, I like to shop at the farmer's market when I can, and usually go for more local grocery stores. So just an example, I have some of my bulk goods over here with the containers as I had just mentioned. And then all the other things like the produce, I really try to opt for things that aren't packaged and opt for the farmer's market as much as I can. Luckily here in California, we have a farmer's market every single week year round because it's pretty much the breadbasket of the United States. So we're really lucky to have that. And when we buy things that are coming from a closer source, at least from farmers in California, they're less likely to put packaging on it, because the sole purpose of packaging, what I learned in school, is to really protect whatever is inside the box or in the bag. So when you're shipping something from a shorter distance, you're also reducing the need to actually have the packaging as well. But anyways, for loose items like oranges, apples, or I think I might have some like peas over there in that bag, I like to also use reusable cotton produce bags to just carry those loose items. And for things like bread, I also have a bread bag too. So when you open my pantry, what you'll typically see is quite a few jars as well. I think one of the best benefits of packaging things in your own packaging is, number one, I think it prevents food spoilage quite a bit. So glass, what I learned actually when I was studying food packaging, is one of the best materials to really prevent oxygen from going in to your food and also causing spoilage as well. But the second thing about buying in bulk is that you really only need to buy what you need. And I think this is also a really great thing to help reduce your food waste. I know that oftentimes when you have a pre-packaged amount of food, you're forced to buy that amount and also finish it as well. But what you can do with just buying the amount that you need is that you don't have to waste whatever might go bad really quickly. So I think that's one of the benefits, or one of the reasons why I really like to buy things in bulk. So the next general theme I have for my home is to choose fewer but better. And I like to apply this throughout my whole home, but it also really applies to my wardrobe, which I wanted to also talk about. So in regards to my wardrobe, I like to keep it really minimal. I've tried something called the capsule wardrobe, which is just having a set amount of items in your closet and sticking to it. So what I've done is I've chosen items that I really love, but not that many and of higher quality. Also, one of the things that I try to do when I build my wardrobe is opt for more sustainable materials. So for example, this outfit that I'm wearing right here consists of a completely 100% wool sweater, 100% cotton t-shirt, and also 100% cotton pants as well. And these days with fast fashion especially, you're going to find quite a few synthetic materials, which are made out of things like polyester and acrylic. But many of you might have seen that these synthetic materials often do create small microplastics, which are generated after washing. And a lot of water filtration systems in municipalities aren't able to catch all of those microplastics, and they end up in our waterways, our streams, and back into our food, especially the seafood chain. So in order to combat this, I choose for higher quality clothing that is usually made out of natural materials. All right, and the next one is to remember to repair, and I mentioned this before, but I had repaired my shoes before, so these leather boots, as you can see on the upper left of my shoe rack, I've had those for almost, I would like to say about 8 years now, and I've extended the life by just bringing them to a cobbler, which I think nowadays it's not very common to do so, but I would highly recommend trying to find a local cobbler if you do have one. I spent maybe $20 just to get that repaired, at least on the heel for my boot, and they've been lasting at least a few more years. So I've encouraged my husband to do so as well with his shoes, and I think it's a really great way to not only just extend the life of your stuff, but also it's definitely a big money saver too. Some other stories of repair, I also try to look for this in higher quality goods or clothing. So just for example, I'm actually wearing these jeans right now, but the jeans in the picture, they're by a brand called Nudie Jeans Co. And they are more expensive, but with that price guarantee, what you're getting is warranty essentially on your jeans, and they offer a repair service for every time you get a tear or a hole. So you can send it over to their company for free and they'll repair it. But for when it's beyond repair, they'll also give you a coupon for your next purchase of jeans and make sure that they're also recycled or responsibly disposed of. So in terms of just buying anything new, I try to look for things that have better warranty, are made to last, or can also be repaired. So the next one is to go natural and plastic free. So this really goes in well with the whole theme of Plastic Free July. If you guys haven't heard of that, it's a movement which is started by people in Australia to go plastic free for the month of July. So I want to talk a little bit about that in regards to the beauty routine and what I do in the bathroom. So as you can see in this picture, my husband is making aloe vera gel from, you can do this from just getting an aloe vera plant or getting a leaf. I have a friend that has a lot of leaves I just use, and that's a really good way to make your own body products without having to buy the packaging. But I wanted to go through what my current bathroom routine looks like. This is an older picture, but it's fairly similar to what I currently do right now. So going from left to right, at least in this picture, this right here is pretty much my whole tooth care routine. I use a bamboo toothbrush over a regular plastic one, and at the end of life, I'll usually compost the handle and also remove the bristles. Those bristles, though they're technically recyclable, they're so small, so they actually end up in my trash jar right here. And right underneath it is a small little jar of tooth powder, which I make myself, that's made out of baking soda and xylitol. And this little vial right here, that's actually silk floss. So there's actually quite a few companies that have come out since I first started Living Zero Waste that now generate a silk floss option, and it's completely compostable. And what you do is you buy the vial, which is made out of glass and metal, it's completely plastic free, and you can buy refills. So instead of buying a new package over and over again, all you have to do is get a refill once you're done. So for showering, I also just like to go for a regular soap bar, so nothing packaged, as well as a shampoo bar. A lot of these things you can just find packaged in paper, which you can recycle at end of life, and they're really great options, and I think really easy for traveling too. For shaving, I use a metal safety razor. So instead of using a disposable plastic one, I've been using this for the past couple years. It's made out of completely metal, and also the blade is completely recyclable too. So they're a lot cheaper. I think I save quite a bit more money than using a conventional razor, and I would highly recommend the safety razor. People used to use it all the time, but now they're coming back into trend as well. These two are essentially essentially, if you aren't able to make things on your own, I just recommend finding more natural, high quality products that are maybe packaged in glass or metal. So my face wash and my toner, those were all made with natural ingredients, but also packaged in glass. So if you're able to find higher quality ingredients, that usually means that they last a lot longer too. So then you are optimizing the amount of packaging that is also being used. So that's another option there too. And the last two jars, those are actually lotions, which I bought in bulk. So not every single country, I would say, has this option, but at least here in the United States, especially in California, we have quite a few different companies that have the ability for consumers to come in with their jar, and they have these large bulk containers of lotion, and you can just pump your own jars in with body lotion or face lotion as well. So I would recommend that if you do have that option, but if not, there's also a lot of DIY recipes out there, or more companies that are coming out with better packaging and more natural products too. So the last thing, or the last tip that I have, is to remember personal sustainability. And I get this question quite a bit in regards to, so just for example, Christine, I live in a household, I have kids, I'm married, and no one really cares about sustainability besides myself. So in light of that, I just tell people to take small steps to really do what you can. And here I have a picture of my husband, because we recently got married and he's not zero waste at all, but he's really trying a lot. And I think in regards to living with roommates, when I first started living zero waste, for example, I actually lived at home with my parents. And they were pretty against it at first, and they thought it was really weird. They didn't really like the idea of me bringing jars everywhere, and they thought it was really inconvenient. But I just did what I can. I took the small steps, and I try to keep my lifestyle outside of influencing anything that they had to do, and just slowly encourage things along the way. And slowly but surely, after a year or two, they started to get more accustomed as to why I do what I do, and now they're more willing to talk about it. Let's say if I go to a restaurant, they see me, and the waiter sees me carrying my own container for on the go. My parents will just go on a little spiel of like why I do what I do, and it's always really fun. But in regards to my husband right now, I also just encourage him to do the small steps that he can, and he's been just implementing small things in his life. So recently he took up the task of using the DIY toothpaste, so he's doing what he can. And I know that for every single person, it's their own journey. So just remember that you have your own journey, whoever else around you also has their own journey as well, and that you can just do it slowly but surely together. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the questions that I got from the email. So just give me a second as I pull that up. I know some of you have asked a few questions, so let me just get that open. Okay. Ooh, it looks like you guys weren't able to see the presentation. Oh no. Let's see. Sorry about that, guys. I will definitely send out the presentation afterwards, and I apologize for that. I thought I tried sharing it, but it looks like it didn't pop up. But let me go ahead and make this a little more interactive. And sorry, I wasn't able to see at least a chat box. So let me go ahead and just at least get the questions out that you guys had asked earlier. Okay, so one of the questions that I got was, how can a beginner start out small, and what steps will make the biggest difference? So in regards to starting out small, what I recommend is that just go one by one, at least in regards to the things that you throw away into your waste bin. Start picking out things one by one, and don't feel intimidated when you generate waste. So one of the things I did when I first started was that every time I threw away something into my waste bin, I think and then look for a different alternative that was plastic free, maybe compostable. Look for something that was a better alternative. So I would say go one by one. In regards to what has the biggest impact, I truly believe that what has the biggest impact is learning to refuse. So if you can just reduce your consumption from the start, I think that's a really great way to just eliminate things from the very beginning of your consumption. Okay. Let me just pull up one more. So the second is that plastics make things convenient and easy. How can we move past this mindset? So in regards to the convenient and easy portion, I think that's something that always gets to me, especially in America, because people love convenience here. So I think one of the things that has really helped me to get past that mindset is just learning to become more aware of the issue of plastic and where it's actually going. And having that awareness and knowing all about that really helps me to better understand and better advocate for living an, I would say, not as convenient lifestyle, but a lifestyle that really aligns with my values and really is just trying to think about people and generations for the future as well. So I know there's always a trade-off, but when you are able to do the right thing at the right time, I think that makes a huge difference as well. Okay, so let me just pull up another question. So the next question is, in Nepal, the perception is that it's very expensive to go zero waste and only rich people can do it. How can we make zero waste accessible to all economic classes? So I think this is a subject that's also very prevalent here in the United States. There's been this saying that zero waste only goes, or it's only applicable to women that live in the middle upper class that are Caucasian. So I mean, just because of that, I think a lot of the people that really drive the movement, yes, they might be more affluent, but what I recommend is just start where you are. You don't need to get all the jars. You don't have to buy all these things to get started to live zero waste. The idea of living zero waste is just reducing what you do have and reducing what you are using and refusing when you can. Yeah, so just because you're living zero waste doesn't mean you have to live this lavish, minimalistic lifestyle with all the things to really get you started or all the tools. You can live zero waste with the existing Tupperware that you do have. You can use that to bring it to the grocery store. And it doesn't take much to live zero waste. So that's my 2 cents at least there. But if you guys have further questions on that, just let me know too if you want me to explain further. Okay, so next questions. The last question I have is, what can consumers do to encourage systematic changes to how products are produced? So I would be very encouraged that I think right now is the time to really make your voice heard to a lot of businesses. I've noticed that ever since I lived or started a zero waste lifestyle about 3 years ago, the demand and the amount of products that are now I guess, fit for a zero waste lifestyle have increased through the past couple of years. So I would definitely recommend making your voice heard to these different companies. So one thing that I like to do is that every time I buy something actually from a different company, I'll like to message them on an individual basis and go ahead and let them know, or just ask them about what are their things packaged in and what is the end of life option. If I have to dispose of it later on, is there like a recycling program? So just making sure that your voice is heard there. I think a lot of businesses are becoming more customer focused and customer centric. So I would definitely recommend that as well. And just making sure that you chime in and speak as the voice of the customer to the businesses that you are buying from, because you are putting your dollar into their business. Okay, so I see one more question from Courtney. How can we be more sustainable in countries where there's no recycling infrastructure and where stores sell everything in plastic? Yeah, that is definitely really tough. So in regards to where there's no recycling infrastructure, I would recommend speaking up to your local government and trying to make change there and saying, hey, recycling is important. Getting people around you that are like-minded to speak up and band together to try to make a change, at least in your local municipality. I know that's really, really tough, but you have to start somewhere and at least make sure that your voice is heard. I think I've seen or I've noticed in countries throughout the world, especially like India, in Taiwan, and China, there are definitely countries that are understanding the issues of plastic pollution, especially ocean plastic. So I would say don't give up, don't lose hope, because there's a lot of countries that are making changes now. For stores that sell everything in plastic, I would say this kind of goes back to my theme of personal sustainability. you do what you can. I understand that not every single store is going to be like-minded. They're not going to have all the zero waste options, but do what you can. If you don't have the options to buy in bulk, maybe you just look for more local groceries or small businesses that might offer things that don't have to come in packaging. So for example, finding like local food stands that have everything like fresh produce that don't have things that are packaged. Or one thing that I like to do here in California is I buy my tofu from a local tofu producer. It's just a small restaurant, but they make everything from scratch. And I bring in my own container and they put all of my tofu into there. So that's that. Does anyone else have any questions? Courtney has another good question. What is your opinion on going meat-free? So I think that's also a big topic of discussion as well, just in regards to your carbon footprint. So zero waste, I mean, the aim of that lifestyle is to reduce your waste. And in regards to going meat-free, I think that touches a bit more on your entire carbon and the footprint that you have there as well. For myself, I went vegetarian about 2 years ago. And my opinion on it is, I don't expect every single person in this world to go meat-free, but at least going meatless a couple times a month can really make a huge difference. You guys have probably seen the impacts of industrial farming and of also the unethical practices of raising cattle as well in quite a few different industrial areas. I think going meat-free, at least in regards to a zero-waste lifestyle, I would say quite a few people that live zero waste still eat meat. But there are quite a few that just want to live more sustainably, that actually go meat-free in order to reduce their carbon footprint as well, because meat does produce quite a few more emissions and it needs a lot more resources in order to be produced. So. Okay, any other questions? Alrighty, so I don't know if there's any more questions. I can stay on YouTube Live for now. If you guys do have any questions, can you maybe try to run through your presentation quickly? Oh, all right. Courtney, could you let me know what you mean by running through the presentation quickly, like running through the whole thing again, or just showing the different pictures? And I'll try to pull it up again. Let's see if this works. Okay, yes, I will show you guys the pictures. Let me try to pull it up. And please let me know if it doesn't show up. I will try to. So what happened before is I only shared my applications. Let me see if I just share my whole screen if that works better. Just give me a moment. Okay, ooh, that's fun. All right. What are the impacts of being vegetarian for 2 years so far for your health, etc.? Oh, so being vegetarian. I guess one of the reasons why I went vegetarian is because I actually have high cholesterol in my family. So at least eliminating all animal products except for dairy so far has definitely helped a lot, because I don't eat any red meat anymore. And that has definitely helped me in terms of like the cholesterol levels I do have in my blood. Okay, so I see my screen on the YouTube live screen. Do you guys see it? Or let me know. And then I actually have my slides over here. Let me know if you guys can see it or not before I start. Great. I'm so sorry that happened before, you guys. All right, so let me do a really quick run through of the presentation and what I was sharing. Okay, so this will be the quick version. Yes. All right. So I'm just going to keep on here because it might have been the full screen that probably made it kind of funky. So let me just get this here. So, yep, zero waste living. Let me go to the next slide if I can. Oh, actually, let me pull this over. Okay. So, introduce myself. That was one thing. Here's my packaging engineering team at Cisco that I work with. As I was mentioning, my background was in packaging, so boxes, food, and food packaging, that was pretty much all I lived and breathed through 4 years in college and is really what got me started. So this is a picture of the local material recovery facility, at least here in California. This is about a day's worth of waste and just a snapshot. I would say there's quite a bit more space, at least in the warehouse, that has all the waste that is processed in one day. This is a picture of the local landfill site, which is about 10 minutes away from my home. And this is what is an active landfill. It has all the most recent trash that is being compacted into that space. This here is the inactive landfill, which is covered with dirt and concrete, as you can see, and also the methane tanks, which also capture all the methane too. I'm just gonna double check you guys still, okay, great. I'm sorry, you guys. Let me keep going. So now what? Zero waste lifestyle. Here's a picture of the original trash jar when I first started, and here's the same one here. Actually, I showed it to you guys on camera, so you guys probably already saw that. As I mentioned, here are the 7 R's. On the left are the R's that the zero waste lifestyle movement leaders have pretty much started. Here are the bonus 2 that I've also mentioned, which is repair and rethink. And then I dove into what I do in my home. So here are the general themes, essentially, of what I like to do in my home to reduce my waste. The first is to keep things minimal. So keeping things minimal in terms of how much I do use. I just had a picture of my wallet as well in terms of when I do buy something, I like to put it on hold until I actually really need it. And I also find that keeping things minimal does save money too. The next thing was to purchase secondhand. So as you can see in this picture, this is essentially all of the furniture in my living room, or some of it, a snapshot. The lamp, the couch, and the little plant stand are things I purchased secondhand. And some other things that I purchased secondhand were the utensils in this picture, as well as some of the dishware too. So most of my furniture, I would say, has all been purchased secondhand, either from online, Craigslist, eBay, that type of thing, or also just taken from when I was living at my parents' home. And then regarding reuse your packaging, here are the pictures of the containers and the bags that I like to bring. Here is a typical food haul that I also have. Let me actually just pause here. Does anyone have any questions before I keep going on all these pictures? Just want to make sure I cover everything. All right, I shall keep going then. So yeah, typically this is what I bring in terms of produce bags, a bread bag, and then also the jars too. So this is kind of a look of all the things that go into my pantry at home. They're all packaged in glass. I bring my own containers when I can. And then regarding the choose fewer but better, I was mentioning my wardrobe and how I like to ensure that all these things are of higher quality, but I don't have as much clothes as well. So I was mentioning, at least in this picture, how this outfit in particular has all natural materials for my clothing. So I went for 100% wool and cotton in this outfit in regards to the issue of microplastics, which is produced by a lot of our synthetic clothing. And regarding remember to repair, I mentioned that these boots right here, actually on the upper left, I've had those for the past 7 years now, due to the fact that I bring them to a cobbler to get them repaired when I can. And this picture of these jeans right here, I was mentioning how they have a repair service. They're higher quality jeans and do come at, I would say, a price, but when you're paying for that price, you're also buying a repair service that also extends the lifespan of your jeans too. So going natural and plastic free, I was mentioning my bathroom routine here. If you guys want maybe a better explanation, I actually have a blog post on this with this exact picture. So I'd recommend either looking it up on my YouTube channel and it'll give you the full rundown as to what all these different things are. But just to quickly highlight, the toothbrush, the tooth powder, and the floss, the shampoo bar right here, as well as the soap bar, safety razor, face wash and toner packaged in glass, and also some bulk lotion. And then I have a picture of my husband here regarding the remember personal sustainability and just doing everything step by step. Okay, so no more questions so far. So in terms of just next steps, I do want to have a little plug regarding my book, which is called Sustainable Home. So this is set to be published on October 16th, I believe. This is a book which I recently authored. I started this process about last spring regarding what are some of the most useful tips for creating a more sustainable home. So as you can see just from the snapshots in here, I have some specific DIYs and recipes and what you can do, and also quite a few more words and pictures on why I live this way. And the thing about this book is that it's not just about living zero waste, but it's also what you can do to reduce your carbon footprint and just be more aware of the environment as well. So I'd highly recommend that if you guys are interested in physical copies of books. It's a hardcover book meant to be more of a coffee table style book, and Courtney and I will work to also get the information to you guys as well if you're interested. And the last thing is my blog, Snapshots of Simplicity. I recommend that you guys check out my YouTube channel. I have an Instagram as well, and I also have the blog as well, which is being updated right now. But all this information will continue to be posted up there. So even though if you might not get to hear me live or in person as much, I would highly recommend at least connecting with me through the blog and all the other social media outlets. Alrighty, so I think that is it. Is anyone else? Okay. Will my book be available as an ebook? Yes, so I don't have those details yet, but I believe it will be, and I'll be sending out all that information through my blog and other social media outlets as well. What are some simple, accessible ways to reduce our carbon footprint? So let me actually stop sharing right now. So in regards to simple and accessible ways to reduce carbon footprint, I think one of the biggest ways that we generate our carbon emissions right now is actually through the amount of energy that we use. So that I highlight that in one of these sections of my book regarding energy usage. Of course, reducing your carbon footprint also has to do quite a bit with the amount of stuff that you consume. So in regards to the zero waste lifestyle, the element of refusing and reducing that also helps to reduce the amount of carbon that is being generated for all the things that you do consume. But at least on an individual level, trying to opt for things with that use less electricity, unplugging things when you can, and just not having to turn on all the lights in your home is one way to do it. Also consider the appliances in your home as well. So an oven takes quite a bit of energy. So when I do bake, I like to make sure I have it full of a lot of different things so I can make use of all the energy in there. Some other things, I'm just thinking like of your laundry machine. I want to say a majority of the energy used in terms of carbon is coming from the amount of energy needed to actually heat the water. So if you can wash your things in cold water, that actually helps it a lot as well. Any other questions? Are your products palm oil free? That's a good question. I want to say that most of my products are. I'm trying to think, at least from a DIY perspective, I don't use any palm oil. It's usually just coconut oil, shea butter, things like that in terms of my body products. In terms of food, because I buy most things that are unpackaged, I would say that palm oil usually only comes in packaged products. So I guess one of the benefits of going zero waste is that you really understand what all of your food is made out of. And I don't think I use any palm oil, Christy. So thumbs up for that. All right. Any other questions? What is your favorite DIY product? Okay, favorite DIY. Personally, I think it's the tooth powder. I think it's the easiest thing to make. It's definitely one of the things I still currently use, which is just the baking soda and the xylitol. Yeah, there's also quite a few other recipes that you can do out there. Like I've done an aloe vera body scrub, which is actually in my book as well. I think that's a really moisturizing product as well, and it's really simple too. But tooth powder, it's a staple, and it's really easy to make, and I think it's quite efficient too. I guess one of the other notes about DIY is that I know for quite a few people that are interested in the lifestyle of living zero waste, you don't have to make everything, at least from your own, and doing everything from scratch. I think for a lot of people, having a really busy lifestyle makes it a little bit scary to live a zero waste lifestyle because they feel intimidated that they have to do everything on their own. But now that I've been in this lifestyle for about 3 years now, there's been so many more options that are open and available for us to purchase that have compostable packaging or recyclable packaging or even refills. So I'd recommend looking out for those options as well if you don't feel inclined to make your own things too. Okay, question from Lynn. Is it possible to travel zero waste? Absolutely. It is definitely possible to travel. So I have an example for that, at least regarding flying zero waste. That's also on my blog too, but I'll probably update it as well. But some of the things I like to do when I travel zero waste is I bring my own containers with my own food. So I politely decline all of the food that is on the plane. And usually before I go on the plane, I actually email them or contact them and say I don't need a meal, because a lot of those meals come packaged in plastic or come with disposables. So I'll bring my own water or my own bottle for the plane, refill that at the airport. I'll bring snacks for myself as well. So usually fresh fruits and dry goods are usually good to go through security. For tickets, I also do an e-ticket when possible. So I usually check in online and then I can use my phone. Usually you can get like a PDF version of your ticket and then use that QR code to scan in through security. And that's all I do in terms of going to the airport, I believe. And I also try to only opt for carry-on baggage because you don't need to get the, what's it called? The little label that goes on your luggage tag. That's what it's called. So I don't use a luggage tag and I just try to go for carry-ons and I try to just pack lightly anyways. The other things I like to keep with me on the go, even when I'm traveling abroad or also traveling at home, is bring a reusable water bottle, my own utensils, and also a small reusable tiffin container or Tupperware, so I can get food on the go or without packaging or just pick it up in there. So those are my top like kind of go-tos with the things I like to bring out. Hopefully that makes sense. But again, all that will be in the blog. So if I didn't cover it here, hopefully you guys can ask your additional questions too there. Any other questions? Where do you usually buy your food? Since I live in a city, when I buy food in the supermarket, people usually pack food with thin plastic bags. I really don't like this. I don't like that either. But at least for packing food with your own bags, so I showed this in my slides. Sorry that you guys weren't able to see it before, but I'll show it quickly again. So give me a second as I pull it up. All right, let me show my screen. Give me a sec. Okay. No, that didn't work. Are you guys able to see my screen? Just let me know, because I'm trying to show the picture at least of the, actually, let me actually show you it in real life if I can find one. I'm actually going to show you what the bag actually looks like, so then that might be easier. Or actually, okay, give me a second. It'll take me a minute. I'm going to go to my bedroom because I think I have a reusable produce bag I can show you there. Alrighty, so you are in luck. I do have a reusable produce bag with me. So what I like to do when I go to the grocery store is I like to bring like a reusable cotton bag for all of the groceries. But for produce, I think this is one of the easiest switches. And I actually did this before I started a zero waste lifestyle. I got these reusable cotton mesh produce bags. And the reason why I got this is because I studied a class on plastic polymers and packaging, and I was like, if we're making this material that does not degrade and has also some health concerns as well, why are we using them in the first place? So I decided to reduce my plastic bag waste, and I bought these quite a few years ago. I think these are really great for a lot of loose items for your produce. So I think that's an easy way to do it if you don't have, if you don't want to use the plastic bags. That's what I do there. Alrighty. Goosey, you had a question about how do you do composting. So let me actually show you guys really quick. Hopefully you guys can see it. It's over here. I'm actually going to see if I can. This is my worm bin. Okay, there we go. So in here is my worm bin, and I'm actually going to walk over so you guys can see it. This is nice and interactive, isn't it? I actually have worms in my home, and not everyone has to do this. I like to try this out because I live in an apartment, so it's easier. But essentially what I do is I put 50% paper and 50% food waste in here. So all the worms are pretty much under here. They're eating away at all the food and just pretty much turns into dirt. This is my first time doing it. I actually recently started doing this maybe a couple months ago, so it's fairly new. But it's completely scent-free. It's really interesting, I know. It just smells like dirt, so it's really nothing too crazy. For all the excess food scraps that I do have, I also freeze my compost scraps, and I will drop it off at a local composting site. So either I can do that at my office, or there's some local stores that have just compost, so I just drop off small frozen bags there. But otherwise, the goal is to get this to compost all of my food scraps in the future. And right now, only produce, eggshells, only those types of things will go into here. So that is how I compost. So hopefully that's interesting. I will go back to my chair. Okay. Courtney, do you feel like you're healthier since you went zero waste? Good question. In terms of health, I would say yes, I eat less packaged food, but just because you live zero waste doesn't mean that you have to skimp out on the fried food or the pizza and stuff. I still eat my French fries when I go out, but otherwise, yeah, I definitely don't eat any more processed foods, which I think is a really big benefit. Before living zero waste, I was actually pretty health conscious to begin with, so I never ate too many processed foods, but I remember sometimes when I would eat like Oreos or processed cereals, there's always times where I had those sugar crashes, and I don't really have those anymore, so that's always a benefit. Alrighty, any other questions, you guys? All right, it is almost to the top of the hour, at least on my end. If you guys do have any more questions, feel free. We're all part of the Global Changemakers Network, so feel free to get in touch over Facebook or over my blog as well. I do have a current blog upgrade going on, but hopefully that will be up by end of next week latest. It might be up sooner, but that should have all the updated information as to how I live this lifestyle, how I live more simply and also sustainably. And hopefully it's an inspiring way for you guys to learn about living this as well. Oh, of course. Thanks, Stella. Appreciate everyone that is watching right now. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your evening or day, and we'll be in touch, and best of luck. Alrighty, I'm gonna end this and hope everyone has a good one. Thanks all.